Let's talk about the SDLC phase of maintenance. In this phase, you need to make sure that your software is reliable and operational all along its course. We have already seen the overall SDLC, right? So we have seen the planning, requirements, design, development, testing, deployment, and finally when your product is deployed, you have to maintain it for long and sustainable future. The maintenance phase ensures that your software continues to meet the user's requirement and performance. Maintenance phase also involves ongoing updates, bug fixes, and enhancements to your existing software. Maintenance phase is as simple as you doing your lawn mowing, right? Every other week you have to do your lawn mowing, trim the grass, trim the edges, give the shape. It's same thing for doing your project management. You need to make sure that when you release your product, you are also maintaining it. It is critical for you to maintain your product, especially when the requirements and the surroundings are constantly changing. Your users would require new things. Your user would not like the way old things were done. So there are many possibilities that can happen. You need to be prepared for maintaining your system. Let us look at the key activities that you do in maintenance phase. The prime and the most important one is your bug fixing. So if you identify any bugs in your system, this is the place where you start phasing those bug fixes out in a probably bi-weekly or a monthly release so that your software gets better every day. The next thing is the enhancements. So let's say you have a feature and now you need to add something to that feature. That becomes an enhancement. Something that was not in the original scope is now an enhancement or a new feature that you're going to add to your product. So all the enhancements also happen during the maintenance phase. The next thing that you have to take care of is performance optimization. You've already built and delivered a product. Now you need to make sure it is very performant so your users can easily use it without being frustrated. The next is the most important, it's security updates. Most of the times when you develop a software, you don't develop everything yourself. You depend on external libraries. Sometimes these libraries have a security flaw. Sometimes your code could have a security flaw. In any case, these patches or urgent fixes become critical for your business operation. In that case, you provide these security updates, and sometimes we call them as hot patches or security patches so that you can make sure that your system is not compromised. Let's look at the types of maintenance, right? So as we have talked about, the first thing that we did was fixing bugs. That is nothing but your corrective maintenance. You try to correct your system to the best possibility so that it becomes more and more usable for your end users or clients. The next comes in the adaptive maintenance. You basically are already working with a set of hardware and software configuration. Now you need to upgrade. You need to basically adapt to the new environment. This is where your adaptive maintenance comes into picture, where you try to upgrade your software or the hardware configurations so that your software continues to behave and can be maintained and sustainable for the longer future time. The next is the perfective maintenance. This is where your enhancements come in. You basically want to fill the gap or a market fit gap that you're seeing with your users, that they can use the software more and more. So basically give them additional features that they are missing in your software currently. And this becomes your perfective maintenance. And the last one is preventive maintenance. In this, you try to keep your software updated so that you prevent it from any security threats and keep it sustainable for a long-term future. A quick shout out to myself. I have written a book or a handbook on Scrum Master for PSM1 certification. It drives you through fitness application that you can follow along so that you can understand the different principles of Scrum and Agile. This book is available for free and the link is in the description section. So quite often, I always get this question on how do you maintain legacy systems that were built like 20 years in the past and the technology is outdated, the documentation doesn't exist. How do you take care of such systems? Well, there is a method to this madness, right? So you need to first start by conducting system audits. You conduct audits and see where all your system lacks and then try to create a plan on how you can improve those areas. And for any system that is so old or a legacy system, you have to first start with identifying the risk so that you can first patch the risk before you do anything else. The next is identifying risk and dependencies. In most cases, these are prime most thing that you want to fix. For example, if you were using a version of Java in your application which was developed 15 years ago, and at some point you stopped upgrading your Java version, but there were a lot of security patches that came in. Now, it is preemptive for you to go and update your Java, but you can't do it because it could jeopardize the rest of your application. So in that case, you need to plan the risk and see how dependencies can be addressed for the software. And lastly, plan for upgrades. Basically, plan to replace your systems with newer systems so that you can get rid of the outdated ones, right? And this is usually where modernization as a keyword that comes into the industry, where you are modernizing a software, right? So this is nothing but creating a newer version of the same functionality that existed. So what are the key strategies that you can put in your maintenance phase that will keep your software up and running, right? So the first thing is you have to have constant updates. Make sure that you're constantly making your system better, providing fixes, providing enhancements, enriching your user's experience primarily. The next one is proactive monitoring. You will have to continuously monitor your system and see where are leaks, where are issues that are coming up, so that you can address those areas and make your system better. And lastly, listen to your users. User feedback is of most important. If you're not listening to your users, then you're building a bridge that nobody wants to cross. So make sure that you're always listening to users, collect the feedback, and also put that feedback back into your development. Let's recap on what we saw in the maintenance phase. We talked about what maintenance phase is. We talked about the key activities that are taken care in maintenance phase. We talked different types of maintenance that are there. We talked about upgrading or maintaining a legacy system. And lastly, how to strategize and make sure that your maintenance phase is very effective. Let us look at the common questions that I often get. The biggest one is, what are the common challenges that you face in a maintenance phase? Well, the biggest challenge that you will have in maintenance phase is the quantity of your bugs, especially your defects that are there in the system. Once you release, your actual users are on the system, it's production, it's live, and you need to make sure your bug fixes are prioritized so that it has the most impact. The second is, when you have enhancements coming in for your system, you need to make sure that you do a balance between your enhancements and the stability of the system. Because sometimes when you ship a big enhancement, it can completely destabilize your system, and that will lose your customers' faith. So make sure that you're always doing enhancements considering the stability of the system. The next question I often get is, how do you decide between maintaining a system versus replacing a legacy system? It all comes down to doing a cost benefit analysis. So what is the cost and what is the reward? It's more like risk reward in trading, right? You see the cost that you have to input to build a new system versus maintain a system, and then what's the reward you get out of it. Maybe it's a better user experience, maybe you add more features, but then that also takes 6 months of development. So are you ready to invest that kind of money? So all of that needs to be thought through, especially considering the security issues that are there in the system, the performance issues that are there in the system, the existing bugs and enhancement tickets that you have already created. So all of that adds up to your decision of making when to replace a system versus when to just fix a system, right? It's just like putting a band-aid versus doing a surgery. The next question is, what tools are used in the maintenance phase? Well, there are many tools. First, your project management tools are not out of the gate, right? So you still have to use your Microsoft project, your Jira, your Trello, whatever you are using for project management, because that is where you will track your defects and your enhancements. The next is, you will also start doing your performance testing. So you do have JMeter, New Relic, and other tools that gives you performance data for your production. You have a lot of monitoring tools that you will use so that you constantly monitor your resources that your production app is taking. You also need to take care of scalability. Let's say if you get a bunch of users after deployment, how do you make sure you scale your system? So there are different aspects of tools that you will need, and it all depends on your case-to-case basis. So one of the statements that has always hurt with me is that maintenance is not about fixing what is broken, but it is ensuring that it continues to work the way it should, right? So make sure that you don't consider maintenance as just bug fixing, but you need to make sure that your system continues to perform the way it was since it was intended to. Because when new users add in, new features are built in, your system starts becoming destable. If you're looking for more in-depth guidance on software development or Scrum and Agile, I do have a very excellent course on Scrum that you can enroll in, the link for which is in the description. I also curate a lot of articles around these topics on my website, teachingagile.com. If you haven't checked out, go and check it out. And if you have any questions, do let me know in the comments below. And no YouTube video is ended without saying that please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next one.